linked up back with another podcast. We have our co-host Gummy today, and we have a couple legends on the podcast, Nick Adler and Russo. And if you guys don't know who Russo is, he's a designer for Adidas for almost 8 years, correct?
Product designer for 8 years. Insane.
And we got Nick Adler, an absolute mogul in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
You're behind the scenes of
BTS.
a lot of things.
Yes.
DJ booth.
Yes. I like to be behind the scenes. This is a new day. I'm in front of the camera.
Oh yeah, and you guys are both founders of Mntge. I'm so excited to find out about how you guys are going to change the industry and how you guys are bringing value.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, so it's Mntge. We made it Mntge. We had to drop the I and the A.
Yeah.
Made it, cleaned it up. There were some other uses of the name out there. We wanted to own that. So we gave it a special touch. It's Brennan Russo, myself, Nick Adler, aka Nicky Yads. That's my street name. And then we got our third partner, Sean Wotherspoon, who is just a legend. Vintage icon, streetwear legend, and really prolific designer.
Insane. So let's get started with Nick. How did you I seen literally on your Twitter or Instagram that an image of Snoop Dogg in 2011. You've been working with Snoop Dogg for a very long time now.
Yeah, long time.
How did you even get into this industry?
Yeah, so Snoop is my guy. He's like really, really, really helped put me into just give me an opportunity. I started a long time ago. I think I'm like on the older age of the audience here, but I'm young. No, so I was living in Woodstock, New York. Peace, love, rock and roll, and
East Coast, baby.
East Coast. I started a little film festival when I was a kid called the Woodstock Film Festival. It's still there today. And so that was my first taste of I want to build something that touches entertainment.
And I love that you use the small town name, Woodstock.
Yeah, Woodstock.
So it really brings some more value.
Yeah, and it's really, that's a really famous small town. So you gotta kind of go for it.
Love that.
So that gave me the itch, and then I went to school, went to New York, went to college, and I also actually tried to come to LA and didn't really work out, and I went back and went to law school. So I did all the school stuff I needed to do. Yeah. Wow. And then after that I was like I gotta get back. I gotta be in the entertainment space, and at that time reality television was really starting.
What were some of the shows back in the day?
Well, at that point, it was like the Osbournes. I don't know if you remember the Ozzy Osbourne.
I've got no idea.
Yeah. So Ozzy, you know who Ozzy Osbourne is?
Yeah, I know who that is.
Ozzy Osbourne, legend, but he had a TV show, reality show about his family.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's
I think I remember. This
is like, if you go watch some old clips on YouTube, it's hysterical. It's like like Ozzy would like
it's like MTV Cribs, MTV era.
Yeah.
Nice.
So those are the shows on, and I end up on this TV show. I asked a friend if I could work for him who was making reality shows, and he said, yeah, come to Miami and take a pay cut, which I wasn't making any money, but he must have thought. So I was like, cool. I moved to Miami, and I ended up on this TV show that ends up being called Miami Inc. Miami Inc. was
oh shoot,
so cool.
So Miami Inc. was a tattoo show about tattoo artists.
Do you have any tattoos?
No ink.
You went on okay.
But you know what? It's almost like, and I work with Snoop. I don't really smoke, so it's almost like you don't get high on your own supply.
100%.
You know what I mean? Nice. So Miami Inc. was this show, and no one had heard of it yet. We made this show, and it blew up. It blew up. It was a small show. We had the best time.
Did you think it would blow up?
No, I mean, I didn't know. It's like a jackpot thing, because we were just having a blast. A bunch of tattoo artists we were working hard all day, partying all night, having an amazing time. Before social media, man. And so after that happened, we caught a wave, and all of a sudden everybody was making tattoo shows, and all this attention was.
So do you feel like you started the wave of tattoo shows?
I mean, I was part of it.
You were part of it.
I was part of it.
You don't got to be that humble. Come on now.
But no joke. I was like a little man on the totem pole, associate producer. I was running around getting releases from people.
Wow.
But it was a team, and the artists and everything. And when that exploded, you felt the change, right? You were like, damn, we put out a hit record, right?
How did you feel?
Like, just awesome. Just really cool to go from a career that I wasn't really succeeding at, which was trying to be a lawyer in New York, to being on a reality show, working with real people who were just, I was watching them catch fame, and people were reaching out. And so when that, yeah, it was awesome. And so when that happened, you know, we got attention and we got a phone call. One of the creators of the show, executive producers of the show, got a phone call from Snoop Dogg's like manager. It was like, hey, we're making a TV show about Snoop Dogg in LA. Do you guys want to come, you know, kind of submit for it to produce it? And we were like, yeah, why not?
This was in 2010, 2000.
No, it's like 2007, maybe.
What?
How did you position yourself to get these like phone calls? I mean, is it from your connections at law school?
So it's all connections. It wasn't me. It was one of the executive producers on the show was a guy named Anthony Mandler. Shout out to Anthony Mandler. He's a legend. He's done some of the biggest music videos you've watched. He's still churning out amazing content today. And Anthony basically had known Snoop. He'd shot him. He'd photographed him. And Snoop basically said, just one of those things that I really respect about Snoop is that there's a lot of teams up to produce that show, like Ryan Seacrest and stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I want my people. I want Anthony.
Wow.
And Anthony was involved with our show. So Anthony calls and gets the show. And next thing I know, I'm packing my bags. I'm moving to Miami. And I will be honest, we were so underqualified. You know, it's like a fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Wow.
How did you like? So you're saying you're underqualified. So you know, with
a law degree. So underqualified.
Yeah, but I knew what I know, but I didn't know how to make a TV show. And I, again, I wasn't like the, you know, but even the group with us, like we were sort of in over our heads. But we took the show, and you know, we definitely fell down a bunch, like, but we figured it out.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's life.
That's how I got to know him.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you gotta always go through things in life to, you know, progress, and you know, you get an opportunity, it changed your life.
Yeah, you got to take a risk.
You in life you have to take risks.
You got to take a risk.
Can't just wait on the sideline and have people come to you. You gotta go out there. You gotta go out there in the world. And you come from law school to then this.
How
Like,
did you pivot? Because when you're studying law school, right, you accumulate all this, you know, educational debt, and I mean, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So it took a lot for you and a lot of sacrifice to make that transition. But what about it that made you be like, I have to do this?
Well, I think I knew I didn't love it. I knew I was operating on a very base level. Like I was just getting by. You know, I wasn't top of the class. My grades were mediocre. Me even just trying to get a job in that industry, I was like ending up with mediocre jobs. And I remember saying to myself, I had that moment where I was like, you know, it's for anybody. Like I was like, this isn't it. I didn't think this was my path. Like I had this vision, and all of a sudden I saw myself going the other direction. Was really unhappy. And when I was, you know, kind of humbled and asked my buddy for a job on his TV show, that was a big risk for me, because it was pride, right? And he said yeah, and when he said yes, that everything, because then I all of a sudden was like, damn, I love this. And again, it wasn't for the money, because I wasn't making any money. It was just for like, I love waking up. I love going to the studio, shooting stuff, and being around people. And it put me in the next thing I knew, here I am on Snoop Dogg's TV show, and like, guy's an icon to me. I grew up, I listened to Snoop Dogg. Also, I'm working with him, and first day I walk in the trailer, he kicks me out of set. He's like,
really?
Yeah. He's like, get the fuck out of here, right? And you know, so we end up, you know, because he had cameras around him, and you know, here I am coming first day, but you know, stuck by, and I went from being TV show to joining his management team called Stampede Management to help him build a creative agency. We can talk about that, but it was just a kind of a.
You created the agency with Snoop Dogg?
No, Snoop. I was part of his management team. It's called Stampede Management. And we managed a lot of like West Coast hip hop acts and writers.
Wow.
Amazing. Like it was like Snoop, Far East Movement. It was
Far East Movement.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
Fly like a G6.
Wow.
So, and then from there, the guys who started the management company started a company called Cashmere Agency. And it was a cool creative agency that really focused on multicultural diversity, inclusivity. And this is before those were like big buzzwords. These guys just saw the future.
Wow,
like,
that's crazy.
Important. And I basically one day said, they said, why don't you come in and focus on build business development, like bringing in brands, because I'd built so many relationships from Snoop.
Yeah.
I said, cool. You know, was a partner, and we built it up to 100 people.
Wow. Yeah. And talking about Snoop and tying it in, you've worked with Snoop Dogg, you've been creating crazy products, for a very long time now. And that space is very competitive. It's really competitive. And so I want to know, how did you end up in the position to work for Adidas?
Yes.
And work with all these celebrities and be able to have the chance to make an impact in the product industry?
Yeah, totally. I met Nick when I was 22 years old. I was the youngest employee at Adidas North America when I first started.
Wow.
And
did you start as an intern?
Started bottom of the barrel. I was a coordinator. I was a coordinator in U.S. sports.
Nice.
I literally showed up on day one, and I'm like, okay, cool. I got this amazing job. How do I send an email on Microsoft Outlook? No, but it was the day when John Wexler walked in, and John came up scrambling and was like, hey, Snoop Dogg is going to be here in 2 hours. He wants to talk about football. I don't know who else is going to talk about football with him because nobody's in the office. I need you to help set up this room. So I was literally merchandising a room, putting up dressing mannequins, putting shoes on a shelf.
Wow.
And I was getting ready to leave, and he came walking in the door with an entourage of people. And there were a bunch of executive C-suite people all in the room as well. And I was like, I should not be in here. And next thing you know, this doesn't feel right. And I was in the back corner of a big conference room, and I was trying to leave. But if you haven't met Snoop before, he has an unbelievably large security guard that is always with him. He's one of the nicest people in the world, but at the time he stood and blocked the doorway, so I couldn't get out. Yeah. And so I'm stuck in this room, and I'm in the corner, and they're all talking, and I'm just trying to fade in the corner, please, no one talk to me.
Yeah.
And within 2 minutes of the conversation, an executive asked him, so what should we be doing? And he looks at me, and he was like, you shouldn't be asking me, you should be asking him. And I was eyes light up, oh my God, this is awful.
Nick, were you around?
I was there, yeah.
You were there?
I was there.
Same room?
Yeah, I was there. I was in the room.
Oh,
and
wow.
I remember it. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, his point was, the young people have the answers, and the young people know the culture. They know what's cool. And instead of all of us in this room trying to make decisions, you need to lean into the young employees. And that's really being around Snoop, just kind of even at afar. Wow. He is an unbelievable person at leaning into new trend, listening to his team, and just really always pushing the boundaries of what's next.
Yeah.
And that's part of his staying power, and part of his genius as he listens to people around him.
Also, Snoop is one of those versatile celebrities that have many different types of product, right? From wine to you think about a R&B or rapper, and they're have this kind of pigeonhole title and as image of just a rapper, but really he branched out. And I wonder, as someone who's a product developer, you're always constantly being challenged to come up and think outside of the box.
Totally.
So tell us about some cool projects that you've dropped with Adidas.
Yeah, totally. The first project I ever did came up with a crazy idea. It was hey, let's give Snoop Dogg a signature football cleat. And at the time, it was always an athlete. It was Michael Vick or name your athlete. And we went to the idea and ran it up the corporate politics. Snoop signed off on it. And it was a really cool story because it was authentic to him. At the time, he was really coaching his SYFL in Los Angeles. And he was really in the weeds of coaching and growing his SYFL. And so it made sense to give him a signature football cleat. We sold it undefeated, sold out. And then we grew that business over 5 years to the largest buy at Dick's Sporting Goods nationwide.
Really?
Yeah, so it was cool to see it on high school football fields and see it everywhere.
Yeah,
college, NFL.
So when you first saw this blowing up, what were you like? Wow, this is actually mind blowing. This shoe that this kid's wearing on the football field and the soccer field is wearing my shoe.
Right. It started from a meeting in that room.
Started from a meeting in the room. That's another what I have to say is that you never know where you will go by just walking into a room and saying, you know what, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't care because I want to make my dreams come true. It's either you sacrifice everything and you be uncomfortable, or you just be, you know, I want to be complacent, and you know, I just want to live a normal life. But no, hell no.
That's so true. It's so
you got to
true.
call this episode "Fake It Till You Make It."
Fake it till you make it.
No, it's so true. I mean, it's super true, because if you don't put yourself out there and you just are not like, I'm doing this, then you'll always just be like, you know, a cog in the wheel, and you're just going through and afraid to take a little risk.
And I always think, like, you know, every single room you walk into, you have to provide value. You have to provide the value, because, you know, if you're just not, if there's no value, then where's the opportunity? Where's the resource? What are you bringing to the table? You know, you have someone like Snoop, and you're in a room with him, and you're working with Nick, and, you know, everyone's providing value, and that's a team, and it's a team effort, and that's how you accomplish goals.
Yeah.
And that's like coming into, you know, now what you guys are creating.
Yeah, and talking about riding the wave. Like, you rode the wave of reality TV show.
Yeah.
Now you're riding the wave of Web3.
Yeah, I love Web3. I love it. I mean, I like, you know, we're in a quiet time. We're in a bit of a downturn, right? But I'm here for the long run.
Oh, it's the best time,
isn't it?
It's the best time.
Met the best people.
Oh yeah.
You
like
know.
us.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, literally, that's, you know, a mutual friend put us in touch on text, and I was like,
like Reed. You know, I've known Reed for maybe, like, you know, maybe four months, and he called me one day, and Reed, if you guys don't know, Reed is just an investor in some projects. Yeah. He's very silent.
After party.
Yeah, he's with Robert Graham.
Yeah.
And he's really behind the scenes.
Yeah.
He doesn't really show his face.
I know.
But he called me one day, and he was like, "Yo, I gotta connect you with my guy Nick," and I was like, "Who's Nick?" I was like, "Who's Nick?" And he said, "You guys would work great together and everything." And so I was like, "All right, let me give this guy Nick a call." Yeah. And then I contacted you, and you're like, "Yo, you want to come down to Sean Witherspoon's studio tomorrow?" I'm like, "Tomorrow? Where is it? Down tomorrow?"
That's a true Nick.
I'm like, okay, shoot. Yeah, sure, why not? And so I showed up to Sean's in Compton. Yeah. And at first, when I thought about Compton, I was like, "Oh shit, what am I about to go in the ghetto? Oh shit, this isn't gonna be great." And so, because I've never actually been to Compton in my entire life. Yeah. Like, that was the first time I ever went. Yeah. So when I got there, you know,
it's just a big industrial.
It was just a big fact, and it was nice. It was actually clean. I was like,
super cool. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And I walked in, and I'm like, "Holy crap! Yeah. This place is massive."
Yeah.
And I go into the back, and there's a basketball court, and we go into, like,
at a studio.
Yeah.
And so cool.
And then the back room, there's like Sean's brain.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
it's
the
like
way to put it.
so legit crazy in there. And then I met Sean, and wow, I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. I thought meeting Sean, he would be more uptight. And when he, like, introduced himself, he was so humble and so, like, just, like, open to just talk. And I was like, wow, this is a real human. Like,
no, he's an artist, man. Like, he cares. He really cares about what he creates and puts in the world, and you see it in everything he does.
Yeah. I saw that 100%, and I was like, wow, I respect him even more. Like, someone with, you know, with that much, you know, he's impacted in the fashion industry, you know, creating these stores that has, you know, #1 vintage store in America, one of the number one,
definitely a top vintage,
definitely top. And you know, he's around all of these people. You know, I would think you would act differently, because I've been around, you know, a lot of other people that are high up in the industry, and they act a certain way, and they have this persona of, like, trying to, you know, act cool and think that they're higher up and have this ego. But with Sean, I'm like, whoa, there's just no ego.
Nah, dude's very cool. Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best. Yeah. I mean, he's unbelievably awesome.
Yeah. So what is it like working with Sean?
Well, I think it's really good, because the way I met him was very similar to the way you met him.
Really?
So obviously Brennan and I, now we go back how many years now? So
10 years.
10 was that it? I feel like it's long. Maybe okay, so let's say 10 or 11, right? And you know, when I was like, he gets it. Like I like where his brain's at. Like he really understands how to market, but understands just like the culture and the consumer that we want to speak to in the company we're building. So we've been throwing ideas around forever. He's helped us out with our Snoop stuff. He left Adidas, went to Beyond Meat for a while. And while he was there, he was working on a sustainable clothing project, because Beyond Meat's all about sustainability. Yeah. And he's like, hey, I'm going to be at Sean Wotherspoon's store over on Melrose round 2. And I was like, oh, cool. I'd love to meet Sean, you know. And he's like, well, I'll be there. Come through. And I said, sure, why not? You know, again, like no objective here.
Yeah.
And mid-COVID, everybody's like masked up heavy. You know?
I hated that time. I hated that.
Like crazy. And so I go over there, and you know, but it's so crowded. Like kids are coming in all day long, buying T-shirts, and like $100, $200, $500, $1,000.
Oh yeah, wait, for vintage.
Vintage. But it's like, you know, it's cool T-shirts. It's like it's a certain style of vintage, right? It's like Michael Jordan tees from the '80s, or Metallica T-shirts, or like, you know, like Madonna T-shirts, stuff like that, right?
But the thing too is the art. Like when you see it, you're like, oh, that looks amazing. And so it's like, it has an artistic value.
You know, you walk in, it's happening, and I'm like, I'm just so impressed. And I kid you not, on the wall, there's like this big Snoop Dogg T-shirt, and I'm like, damn, how much is that? And he was like $2,000. I was like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Did you buy it?
Well, no, I said why? Why is it $2,000?
Okay, yeah, why?
So mind you, Ethereum at this point is 4,000. So this is 2,000. So part of me in my degenerate head is like, oh man, it's only half an ETH, right? So I'm like, you know, pull it down, man, and like tell me about it. And he proceeds to tell me the story. He's like, you know, you see this fade? This was a black T-shirt, but it's somehow this wild green now. And you see this tag? Like this says Fruit of the Loom. Like every T-shirt now is on a Gildan or whatever. And he's like, you see the quality of this T-shirt? He's like, it's a really strong T-shirt. He's like, the bootleg, this is a bootleg. It's not even a T-shirt sold in a store. Some dude made it. And he's like, the quality is better than most of these like high-end T-shirt stores now.
Yeah.
And then he tells me about like who he thinks made it, and where he thinks it was made, and how many there are. And like, I'm thinking rarity.
So he's diving deep into this.
Deep, right? I'm like, I'm thinking rarity. I'm thinking traits. I'm thinking provenance. Everything that I'm thinking about regarding NFTs.
Wow.
And so I have this like, I'm like, wait, you know, there's something here. Like, how do we put this on the blockchain, right?
And you have a rarity tool in your head.
Right, exactly.
Like.
And I'd already been thinking about doing something with like rock and roll T-shirts for a while. That's where he and I were chopping it up. We're like, how do we make rock tees something where you go to a concert and you get the NFT, and maybe you could put the filter on. And that's what we were playing with. But when Sean came into the picture, he was thinking on a different level, and he brought up the vintage market and how big it was. He's like, it's getting so big, it's changing everything.
Wow.
Everything he said has been true. Like, the market is huge now. It's like a multi-$100 billion market.
Really?
Wait, I've never shopped anything vintage. Can someone explain to me, like, what is this phenomenon?
So, well, you talk about it. I feel like you understand it.
It's crazy. I understood it, but I also didn't understand it, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, because when I think of vintage, I think of like, you know, your grandmother's like, you know, old dress, or like the for old furniture and plate.
100%.
Which I bet you there's some fly stuff in your grandma's closet. You just don't know.
That's true. My grandma's pretty fashionable.
What's eye-opening is when you go, I went with Sean to see where he gets it all from, the like secret source. And what was
this is a secret source.
Yeah, totally. It's a wholesaler. And what's really interesting about the whole process, and it's so eye-opening to me, is it comes out in 100-pound shrink-wrapped like hay bales. So you could be like, I want black T-shirts. So they'll bring you 100 pounds of black T-shirts, and you're sorting through it, and most of them could be bad, but then you're pulling it out, and it's like, oh wow, I just found an old Metallica tee, or oh wow, I just found, you know, an Eminem tee, or whatever it is. And you're sorting through it. Or if you're like, hey, I want Patagonia, you can reach in there, boom, they'll bring out 100 pounds of shrink wrap Patagonia. And it's so eye-opening to see how much all of the stuff that all the brands and all the people are making, and a lot of it goes into trash, or goes into different, you know, discard piles. It ships down to South America, and then they ship it back to us, and it's vintage.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it is so, it's so
wow.
the product creation cycle of clothing in general is just so not sustainable.
No.
And it's so the concept of vintage is so cool because it is literally sustainability at its core. It's like you just aren't buying new stuff, and there's so much old stuff to go around for all of us for lifetimes. And we're just getting to reuse all that
I
stuff.
think it's also the rarity behind
I do.
a vintage
It's the rarity, and I also think it's like we talked about sustainability. Like the fact is that a lot of stuff that was made 20, 30 years ago is made with much better quality. And
Why do you think that is?
because I don't think we had the technology and the tools to just churn and burn new things, and and now there's so much fast fashion, Zara and H&M, and you could walk in and literally like I'm a victim, man. I go on vacation sometimes, like damn, I need a t-shirt. I'll just go to your Top Shop or whatever, boom, spend $10 and you wear it like 3 times. Whereas like when back in the day, like everything was like the stitching was better, the quality of cotton was better, it was just better quality, and that's why it's all still here. So there's this element of people wearing it to be like, I'm upcycling, I'm conserving, but there's also this thing of like, if you know, because to your point about rarity, like I'd rather have something that's one of a kind than one of that. Like you go on a Hot Topic, right, and you get a Iron Maiden t-shirt, which like a lot of kids are rocking or whatever. But like they're again churning them out. Like you go into a vintage store, you find the original one that's done by the original artist that like resells for $500, and you walk down the street, it's kind of like a flex. Like if you know,
if you know,
these are my Jordans, like these are my whatever. This is mine. And I think like larger kind of community, streetwear community, people are catching on to this, and it's special. You feel really good when you wear it,
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, I don't know. I thought this shirt was vintage for some reason. It's a Supreme Nike collab. It kind of looked vintage, but with what like you were talking about, like you go into these like Hot Topic stores, and there's not, you wear it a couple times, it's $10 shirt, and whatever, you throw it away, you get a new one because
and plus it shrinks up, it's too short.
100%,
super thin.
And so going back into, you're on round 2. And you pick up the Snoop Dogg shirt.
So I pick up the Snoop shirt, and Sean tells me all about it, and I tell Sean about this idea. I've been playing with NFTs, and at this point I'm pretty heavy in NFTs. I'm like consulting projects, got Snoop to do a bunch of drops, so kind of my voice is out there. And
so did you consult Snoop on like his first job?
Yeah. I pretty much oversaw his first couple jobs. I advised like the Yuga Labs, I advised the Fluff guys, I have like a sandbox, like I got in with a lot of different companies because I was a good.
You advised for Yuga
Labs? Yeah, some advice for
Holy crap, that's crazy. Wait, what was that like?
I'll finish the Sean story, and then we'll go.
Wow, I want to know about that because that's
so Yuga, I'm happy to give a bunch of. So with Sean, he was telling me about he wanted to do a generative drop on like a cartoon drop. And we were both like, that's already been done. We need to come back, and with Brennan, we need to like get in the lab and think about it.
Think about it from the young perspective.
Yeah, well, just think about it in the sense of like, what can we do that's different? And Artifact is a big inspiration. I mean, I think what they were doing early, before Nike bought them, and I think what they do in Nike's crazy. I mean, they've sold $130 million in product and NFTs, right? So I was thinking to myself, like, what is the future of wearables? And I think a lot of people are approaching wearables. They're creating futuristic, like, this is what your metaverse character is gonna wear, and it's gonna have like, it's a spaceship. And we were like, well, everyone's thinking about the future. Let's think about the past, right?
Yeah.
And everybody, if you make all these future wardrobes, you're gonna have to recreate all these future products. And we're like, we have massive vault of product that like people admire and want to collect already. So let's think about how we can put those products and digitize and animate. And we invested in creating like really incredible scans. We bought them scanning machine, and we didn't realize that most people just send these out to vendors. So we went and bought the machinery,
Yeah.
So you're an entrepreneur. I see you build what you built here. Like you're like, I'm not gonna go do it with somebody else. I'm gonna build it myself. So that's what we did. We built it. We're building it ourselves. We started to scan, and Sean is a like detail, and he's like, I can't have something that's just like cool, like maybe like vague. He's like, you got to zone in and see the stitching. You got to see the buttons. You know what I mean? You got to see the texture, right? So we started to do that, and then we started to figure out how to make it like fit in like as a flex. Like, what does it do to come to life? Like, where do the mushrooms come?
So this all started with you going into round 2, seeing a Snoop Dogg shirt, and then just being like, hold on, we could do something here.
And we iterated, man. I remember this summer, I'd be calling him from, I was in Europe, I'm calling him from Europe. I'm like, oh, he's like, our designer quit. He's like, just doesn't get it. So we had to go.
You know, it's really hard. It's really hard to find a 3D. It's like a right and left brain, and we ran into that problem. Is you have some designers that are amazing fashion designers, but in Web3 they can't design in 3D. Or you have amazing 3D designers that don't know anything about fashion, and so you would get some of these designs back from 3D designers, and you'd be like, what is going on here? But the other side would be, you know, you would sit with an amazing designer that may work at Nike and be like, hey, I need this, and they would respond like, I can't do that. And so it was really crazy because it was like, how are we going to figure this out? And so we amazingly put together an awesome team. We have an amazing design team now, and it's really cool to see it kind of all start to come together.
And that just tells you guys are at the forefront because you're really pushing. Like, if anybody could pick up and make this, it would have been done. But you're really in the future.
You got to build it. And we got to build ways to get you that real vintage. We're trying to build beautiful digital animations, but also attach it to real products. So you can actually...
it's a phygital.
Yeah, phygital. So I don't like the word phygital.
Oh, really?
I don't love it.
Tell us.
I just think it's an awkward word. You know what I mean? I just
phygital.
Fidgetal.
Let's say that 3 times.
So for everyone, like, so basically, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, physical clothing on the blockchain, but vintage.
So taking vintage items, we're scanning them in, we're looking at the rarity of those items, we're trying to create, you know, digital twin NFTs of those items, but those digital twins are the things we're creating. Before you ever get to the world of owning the real life products, there's going to be digital drops. Like Sean will have a collection. Yep. Sean will drop a sick digital collection that, like, Sean Wotherspoon's conceptualized. He's inspired by a bunch of pieces in his catalog, and he's animated them, and he's really worked through them. And then after Sean, there'll be another amazing designer who has credibility of a Sean Wotherspoon, and we're going to do a lot of designer collections, and this will be their first digital fashion collections, but all of those collections will be tied to certain vintage collections. Yeah. So, you know, we're starting really entering the digital space, but as we get into next year, you'll see a market come out, and that market will allow you to access real vintage pieces that you can own and wear. Yeah.
What I really like about what you said about you don't like the phygital word is because you want to create a Web3 product that you don't even think it's like an NFT. You don't even think it's like, you know, there's this technology behind it. You want to be super accessible and make it like you're just purchasing an art.
Totally. I just want, you know, it's like we think about how the software blends in to produce an amazing brand. I think if you look at the aesthetic of what we built, so like I really, you know, Web3 is Twitter, right? Web3 is Discord, which we have really strong Twitter, we have really strong Discord. But we're really proud of our Instagram. Like our Instagram is a visual, like we want to layer like a brand. Like I think the logo, the M is fly, and I think when people see it, they're like, damn, that's an aspirational brand.
So what made you come up with the name Mntge?
It was mint and vintage.
just that simple.
We were just chilling, like mint and vintage. Like
we went through a bunch of different names, and it was like nah, like nothing stuck, and then that stuck. And then I reached out to a former Adidas alumni who was a fire designer. He's amazing. And he was like, I was like, hey man, can you do us a solid and design this? And he was like, yeah, I got you. And
he designed the logo.
He worked with Sean and myself and Nick, and we all sat together it probably took a good like month and a half, 2 months. And then we worked through different iterations, different colors, and then we got it right.
Like Sean, if you look at Sean's designs, color plays such an important role. Yeah. So we couldn't mess this up. We needed the colors to be like really spot on. It has a retro. I think it's just like, I love this word retro future. That's what I think we are. Retro
future.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
So
we're not digital, we're retro future.
so like I'm you know, I come from the influence world, and so like I got into this space like a year and a half ago.
You gotta help us tech our TikTok. I want to be the brand that has the Web3 brand that's crushing it on TikTok.
So that's like another thing. Like you guys, you know, you guys could kill it like in the social media world, like absolutely kill it. But like what I was gonna say was having physical clothing on the blockchain and also be digital is like absolutely mind blowing to me when I found that out. And for a lot of people, they have nothing. They have no idea that's even possible.
Yeah.
They have no idea. And I think it's very, important to try and mainstream this because, involving, celebrities into this project and other projects that people are creating with digital collectibles within clothing and products, like is actually like amazing because there's people out there like us that are seeing this vision.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, it's very quiet right now.
Yeah.
It's very quiet.
It's time to build.
And it's time to build.
Yep.
And you guys are really killing it.
Appreciate
and
that.
I've seen the website. Sick.
Yeah.
It's sick.
Thank you.
So basically you own a pass, you own this vintage pass.
Yeah.
And with this vintage pass, you could when Sean comes out with his collection, you have first access to these, dope ideas that he comes up with, and that's so sick.
Yeah, I'll drop some alpha right here. So we should drop some alpha.
It's membership.
So basically, what we're doing is the pass, which is there's some snippets of it online. People can see. We haven't dropped the full pass, but it ties into the idea of a tag, and we're dropping it. We're dropping it the week of December 14th. And
shoot!
Yeah, limited quantity. Like
how many?
So I'll tell you, we're dropping 1,500.
1,500.
But
that's very small.
Yeah,
that's
like price is not released yet, but maybe if this comes out a little later, we'll drop it to you. But we're gonna drop that pass, and then we want that pass to build this community, which is again access to Sean's drop, access to other designer drops, be some free airdrops and things, and we want to drop what is a market. We want you to be like access to the real product. The prices we get it at, not the prices that the store is selling to you for. So we want to make sure that we're bringing back that amazing experience of like, I discovered something and it hasn't been through 10 different hands and marked up 10 different times, right? So we want to give you that ability to make that arbitrage, to make that kind of, if you flip that shirt or you keep it, know like, damn, I got it for a respectable price as opposed to having to pay top dollar.
And would these like physical items be built brand new, or are they going to be? Could you share a little bit about that?
It's vintage.
Yeah, it's vintage.
It's
Wow,
it's all here.
the rarest.
Yeah, it's all
Amazing.
it's picked by us.
He also though has an amazing network globally of friends and vintage collectors that we can tap into and really dig into a really special assortment of tees and product outside of that that is super dope.
Speaking of network, like Nick, I've seen you with Eminem.
Yeah.
I've seen you with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I've seen you with, obviously Snoop Dogg. Yeah. Like, where is this coming from?
It's insane.
It's actually insane. I'm like, on his Twitter is your banner is Eminem, Snoop Dogg, a whole bunch of like these high top celebrities. Like, how'd you build relationships with these people? And even like talking with Elon Musk, that like, wow.
I've been in the game a long time, and it's relationships. Like exactly what you're doing. The way we got to know each other, just spent time, put in the work and. Traveled the world with Snoop, which gave me a lot of access. Like Elon.
What was it like traveling the world with Snoop Dogg?
It's exhausting.
Exhausting.
Yeah, man. Because when you look, anybody, I don't know if you have any friends in bands or DJs, but like it looks like it's amazing because you get to see the world. But it's. I mean, you don't sleep, So you're trying to be in a city and enjoy it. You got an hour, and then you got to get on a bus and sleep like this. Yeah. And they got performances, and you're running around, making sure everything's lined up. Mm-hmm. It's a lot, but it was a lot of fun. But through that, I met a lot of people, and I think I've again, like I've done quality, good business with people, and that's referred me to other people. The reason I have Snoop and Eminem on my Twitter bio, because Eminem was like a legend, right? And Snoop's a legend. To be with both those guys after the Super Bowl was exciting. And that was actually on set when we shot a video.
I saw that video. Did you see that?
No.
It's insane. It's so good.
This is where Eminem and Snoop Dogg turned into their bored apes. Mm-hmm. It's called From the D to the LBC.
Yeah.
And you were a part of that?
I put it together. So again, this is where I'll tell you about the Yuga Labs. So, Guy Osiri, who's a part of Yuga Labs, a really good friend of mine, and he's a legend. He manages Madonna. He manages the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he heard about NFTs, and I told him about it, and he was like, he didn't really get it, and then I told him, hey man, I think the beauty here is that this allows us to cut out the middlemen and to create royalties forever, which is changing a little bit, but evolving. And he kind of clicked, and he like went all in. Next thing I know, he got to know the apes, and then they made him a partner, or they made him a part of it. Yeah. And he's the manager / part of the apes, and he really truly helped elevate them, I think, from being one of the better projects to being a lifestyle brand. And through that, I kind of just was a voice. And so when the opportunity to create content for a video came up, I was like, hey, Snoop's got an ape, M's got an ape, let's go make let's make a video. And then it ended up getting nominated for MTV VMA, and then we went to perform it. And I was like, damn, like I see how you can weave Web3 into our real lives. And that was like super exciting. So I talked to those guys a lot. They're in the lab, man. They're doing crazy stuff.
I love how you said it's all about, relationships, and it's very important to keep your brand, great. And because once you lose your reputation, it's done, especially in Web3. It's a small space.
Web3. If you mess up on Web3,
it's done. Yeah. It's done. And so you've managed over a very long time to keep your reputation sustained, through this entire thing, because I bet there was a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of stress, and you had to figure things out last minute, but you still pulled through and made things happen. But like, what was your biggest downfall in life so far?
So my biggest downfall in life, that's a hard question, man. I don't really, I've had a lot of misses. Like, I feel like, in 2007, when I was brand new, just starting to work in the entertainment space and around Snoop and other artists, social media was exploding, right? And I remember, like, when I first saw Twitter, I said, I was like, I said to a friend, I don't get it. Yeah. And he looked at me, he goes, you don't have to get it, but you'd probably be a fool to ignore it. And that was the biggest aha moment I ever had, right? And so from that point, I just basically made it my business to understand what was going on in Silicon Valley. And I went up there and I got to know, like, I like DM, there wasn't even DM yet. I went on Facebook and I set up like a fake Facebook account for some artists, and I started to direct, like, because Facebook had email back then, and I email messaged these people, and they'd be like, holy shit, like, can't believe, and I knew these artists, so they let me do it.
Tell them who you're emailing.
Jack Dorsey.
What?
Okay. So Jack Dorsey and people like that.
Wait, hold on. What?
So you created a fake account.
Okay,
and then contacted these people. Talk about fake it till you make it, right?
You guys will appreciate this.
Okay. All right. So I'll give it to you from the beginning. Basically, 2007, I start realizing that there's an opportunity to, I got to understand what's going on in Silicon Valley, right? So at that time, Facebook is pretty much the one. It's Facebook and Twitter. There's no Instagram yet. There's no TikTok. There's no Snapchat, right?
Yeah.
And so Facebook, you could basically set up like sort of celebrity profile accounts. And obviously of the people that I had been working with in music, I was like, do you mind if I sort of set you up? And they were like, yeah, whatever, go ahead. As personal accounts. And not as like celebrity, as personal accounts. So I did. And then I would go and I friended a bunch of like these like legends, like, like these like Jack Dorsey and
Elon Musk?
Not Elon, but a handful of others, and they all hit me back.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And they were all like, hey, wow. And I was like, hey, you should meet my guy Nick. He's coming up to the Bay.
Oh my God.
What?
That is hilarious.
Talk about strategy.
Real quick though, I think it's super important because you talk about being early into stuff, and I think that's a really good example of when you're early into something and you lean into something as like celebrities, trusting people, like it has a lot of power to it because you're early, right? And you don't know necessarily what's going to happen, but when you're early to stuff and things are hard and things are difficult, but the willingness to jump in, I think it's like
people pay attention.
Amazing.
So they all said yes to a meeting, and I walked in.
That's crazy.
And they were like expecting, like, they're like, so what can I do for you? And I was just basically like, you know, we're down in LA working with Snoop and some other artists, and they were like, oh, that's interesting. Like, yeah, we just built relationships. Now, what I didn't realize, and this is where I was going to, I wouldn't even say it's my downfall, but it was a miss. But it was a miss that taught me so much about how to be like, make up for my misses and be more successful in Web3 is, I didn't realize that you can invest, and I didn't realize you can get equity. None of these things were in my brain. I had no financial education. Nobody taught me about, like, I just didn't know it. And at that time, like, you didn't have a lot of these, like, people invested in tech startups. So I leave there and I jump on all these platforms and I start just promoting and blowing them up. And it served a great purpose. It helped build amazing reach for artists. You know, they started to, like, promote these tech companies, and I got to meet Instagram after that. And I went, and I met Kevin. I met Kevin's sister on Instagram, and I walked in. He was like a little shy about his office, so we ended up going to a coffee shop down the street. This is like pre free Facebook, right? Before they sold. And in that meeting, I put a celebrity on Instagram, and the next day the article got blown up, and Instagram like took off, right? And they ended up saying, "Oh, I'll never forget the day Snoop's people called us." And I got a bunch of congratulation emails being like when they sold, and I was like, why? I didn't you know. And I realized, damn, after that I got to learn to invest, and I got to learn to get equity.
Yeah, so wow. So
I say that was my biggest miss. Yeah. And at the time, like, if I'd have gone all in, I would have had a different career. I probably would have been like tech, like, guru, but I didn't know.
So at that coffee shop with Kevin, and you walked in, and you sat down with Kevin. Yeah. What were you expecting?
Well, it was different. He didn't have. It wasn't like it was a small product. I just was early. Like, I knew.
And you just would have never known.
Would have never known. We just kicked it, and then I put the celebrity on Instagram, and I did a whole post, and then the article picked it up the next day, and then people started to use it, and then that was like the beginning of major success. And they sold for $1 billion a year and a half later.
Wow.
I didn't get any of it, but that's crazy. When I saw Web3 and I saw this new movement, I was like, I haven't felt anything like this since social media. I was like, but I'm not going to do it that way this time. I want to build. I want to be part of this, and this is, I feel like, a big, you know, shared economy to a certain degree. So I feel like entertainment is at the center of it. So I feel like we can all truly benefit from it.
Let's go.
Wow.
That's huge.
Holy crap, I'm like mind blown.
Yeah, man, off, you know, when camera's off, I'll keep filling you in.
because like you being able to, like, you know, be in the rooms with these people, and you don't even, like, Kevin, like, you, the owner of Instagram, you have no idea, you know, the Instagram's gonna sell a year later for $1 billion. And
sometimes you think it's gonna happen, and sometimes you never expect it.
You never expect it. And so, like, in the long run, you always look back and you're like, you know, I could have done this, you know, I could have been more knowledge on this, but in reality, you know, it's all about, like, you know, how you got to where you were. You know, everyone has a you know, their own journey in life. And
it's never straight, man.
It's never straight. Yeah, exactly. And so, like, maybe that wasn't your purpose to go into that realm of the industry.
Nah, it wasn't.
And, you know, now you went this way. Yeah. And you're like, you know, you're doing crazy shit still.
Yeah. I mean, hey, man. I'm still. You
met with Elon Musk.
Yeah. The Elon Musk one was a funny one. We were just backstage at a party, and it was a bunch of us sitting around talking. And
what's Elon Musk like in person?
Man, he's a little awkward.
Really?
Yeah, he's super cool, but he's a little bit like, it was a little bit of a miss. There was some missed signals. Like, I was trying to, like, really get some convo, and I felt like he was just mentally, like, he's on a different level. Like, you want to talk specific, like, technology or space travel, and I feel like you can really zone in. I was just trying to have a small talk, and it was just,
and he's going like deep into stuff.
Nah, he's just sort of like, you know, listening. I just felt like I felt like his focus was somewhere else. You know, he's like, I'm solving big problems.
So how do you like Elon? You have someone like Elon Musk that's like changing the world with all of his companies right now, and I don't know
how do you think you guys are going to change the world with your platform?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I think it lends itself really, really interesting to you see, Sean and I talk about it a lot of the hard part is you get asked for so many, different world, all the different projects, right? Whether it's doodles or apes or fluffs or you name it, right? And they're building these worlds, and you look at it of how are people currently in Web3 expressing themselves, and it's through their characters and their PFPs. You saw that wave of when everybody was changing their PFP to a different character. It's still there in Discord, but what really is interesting is if you're looking down the road is the way we're all dressed expresses how we felt today. And from your shoes to the clothes you're wearing, it all is a form of expression. And when people start to engage in a video game format with their PFP, or it starts to become 3D, the next thing people are going to want to do is express themselves through their clothing and to have uniqueness outside of just the rarity traits they were giving. And I think that's what we're really trying to push and engineer is while you may be able to make a fantasy level dress, what we're really trying to do is say, here's all this real world stuff that all of us think is really cool and has a really cool narrative, and putting that into that space to be able to put on those different characters. I think that is what we're really trying to push forward.
Wow, so exciting.
I love that. Like that's amazing. And I think in the next 5 years you guys could,
I think less than 5 years.
I mean, less than 5 years, but
I love walking in your studio and seeing you got a smart suit, right?
Yeah, so
like about rigging yourself.
Yeah, what Project is doing, and like what what we're doing, and what you guys are doing is like so much, it's like similar. It's like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about to creating a commercial and putting the smart suit on and going into the digital world and showing people like what Project is all about, and creating gamified games, and ending up on a track. Our toy truck game is like about to hit us, and like we go and run off, like all that stuff.
You gotta be flexing.
Super sick.
You gotta be flexing your Mntge.
That's the thing. Is like there's so much collaboration in Web3. It's so important to collaborate, because this is how we move forward. This is how we move the technology forward. I might not know what you know, and just vice versa. And again, it's all about relationships. And I feel like at the end of the day, I've been able to just be real with myself, and I feel like everyone should just be real and authentic, because like Sean, he stayed authentic. All of us, like, we've stayed authentic to the brand that we want to create, our vision, and we move forward in our life accordingly to where we want to go, not where we don't want to. Like I
know I'm naturally drawn to authentic people. Like the type of people I've always want to work with. They're one-on-ones.
I love that one-on-one.
We're all one-on-ones.
I love that.
Like I can't work with someone that I can't relate to.
There's all the people that are like one of an addition. That person. You see them at a party. They're one of
many.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really, and LA attracts a lot of people who are individuals and one-on-ones, but it also attracts a lot of that carbon copies. It's really hard.
100%. Like especially in LA, it's very hard to find those one-of-one people. And most of the time those one-of-one people aren't going out like everywhere. It's the ones that are just
they're building.
They're behind the scenes. And you gotta get a phone call. I'm getting a phone call from Reed. Yo, you gotta connect with my guy Nick. And then we meet Sean, and here we are
now in the Project podcast.
It's crazy. So I'm glad I had you two legends on the podcast. You guys are amazing. Thanks for coming by Project, and we're looking forward to doing crazy stuff in the future. And Art Basel is around the corner.
We'll be there.
We're throwing an event.
Yeah, we got an event going on. I'll send you guys the event.
Dude, I'm in.
And with that being said, y'all, it's been a killer. Mango out.
Gummy
Peace and love.
Peace.